Hey guys, how is it going? All right, for your viewing pleasure today, I am unveiling a deck I've actually was playing quite a bit about a month ago and played a series of games, a number of which were actually worth recording due to the fact that the deck was still being tuned and had a long way to go. I'm actually pretty happy with where it is right now. And so, for the first time ever on my YouTube channel, I am unveiling, wait for it, what is this? Bunch of odd colored cards could only mean one thing. That's right, Budget Breya has arrived. All right, well, as you know, I played the format called 2DH, which is $2 Highlander, where all the cards have to be $2 or under, with the exception of the Commander, which can be as expensive as $5 on MTG stocks. So I've used that as a framework for designing this deck, although Breya herself is not under $5 yet. And I expect that it may creep its way down below $5. If it doesn't, it's extremely likely there'll be a reprint of it at some point down the road, which might make it dip under $5. But either way, I feel that it's not completely worthwhile to adhere to the 2DH standards, as most people are more interested in just playing either full-powered or some sort of budget version. So this is definitely a budget version of Breya that adheres to the $2 maximum almost completely, with a few minor exceptions. I'm playing, for example, with Merchant Scroll, which is well above the $2 threshold, and a card like Forbid, which I think is like $2.25. And of course, Breya herself. I think the rest of the deck is actually underneath that. I've certainly paid a lot of attention to the price guideline with the mana base. And given the fact that it's a 4-color deck, the mana base is probably the most pivotal issue that decides whether or not the deck performs well. It's one of the hardest obstacles to playing 3 and 4 and 5-color decks in the budget format, because you don't have access to the fetch lands, you don't have access to any of the shock lands. You do have lands like this, which are fetchable with... actually, I don't even know if anything matches this in budget, since you don't have the regular fetch lands. But regardless, they're worth using. The biggest problem, of course, is the fact that with all these check lands and various other conditions, check in hand, check in play, a lot of the lands come into play tapped, which means that the deck is just very slow. You've got dimmer signets, which don't make mana, well, signets in general, which don't make mana on the turn that they're played. One of the talismans is not legal in the format due to being too expensive, and just lots and lots of lands like Smoldering Marsh and stuff. And with the slow, crippled mana base against decks with fully fleshed out mana, you're often at a big disadvantage. So in this game, I'm up against Fukijama, a guy I think I've played in the past, and he's playing a Damia, Sage of Stone, which is pretty powerful black, green, blue commander. Probably not in the same league as Tasigur, certainly, and as well as the partnered duo of Thrasios and Tymna, but still pretty solid, and with the right rampy mana draw can be really problematic if it gets into play. So you can see some of the cards I'm playing here. Some of these are old stalwarts from the regular Breya deck, including Painful Truth, Dimmer Signet, and Spell Pierce. I'm running Pyramid of the Pantheon, which will make an appearance in some of the other decks, or some of the other games with this deck as well. I am so on the fence about this card for a long time. It just seems like it's so good in theory, and that you can just put it out for 1 mana. You can use it for mana fixing, which is pretty critical in a 4-color deck early, and then obviously once you activate it a few times, it turns into a Gilded Lotus with a reasonably modest investment of, I guess, 7 mana, 1 to cast and 3 activations. But I found game after game that I was so tight on mana at the beginning of the game, I never had an opportunity to activate the Pyramid until mid-game, and it would very frequently get destroyed or bounced, or even worse, stolen by something like Dak Faden once I had it ramped up. And with all those things in mind, I ultimately decided to cut it. It was just a little bit too greedy and decadent, although I still kind of like what the card represents in general. And but of course, other than that, the hand is very, very keepable. I have turn 1 Spell Pierce abilities along with Painful Truths on turn 3 to draw 3, and a good mana base, so I'm going to roll with it. All right, I'm going to be careful with the clicking. All right, he opens with just a Forest into Burgeoning. Interesting and potentially powerful enchantment. I can see why he probably uses this with Damia, because you want to get your hand size down relatively small, but just like with Azusa, Burgeoning has that same problem, and Fastbond to a lesser degree, where if you don't have a lot of lands to go with it, the effect is quite weakened. And unlike other things like Explore, it doesn't draw an extra card even. It just sort of sits on the table. Really, really powerful in multiplayer, especially if you've got a lot of wheel and twister effects and stuff. You can get a lot of free land drops out of it. But in 1v1, I think the card is way too weak to use. All right, draw Electrolyze. going to see a whole gamut of cards I'm not using in my regular Breya deck, and I'll do a pause when I do an inevitable search at some point. So I play Command Tower. This is entirely just a Spell Pierce, of course, in case he's got a good turn 3 play that I can pierce. He plays a Verdant Catacombs. Fetches immediately. And then just says go. So I don't agree with sacking the Verdant Catacombs. As you know, I like to keep as many lands as possible in my deck, especially when I'm short on mana. And you don't want to thin lands out of your deck when you need them. Doesn't make any sense, but I guess you want to get a come into play tap land out. I draw Mana Leak, very solid. But given that he's sitting at 2 mana, I give some thought to playing Dimir Signet here, and I realize, though, that there isn't really a lot of value in doing that because the Smoldering Marsh is not going to be able to come into play untapped anyway. So unless I draw another mana source, I'm not going to be able to play Breya on turn 3 anyway. And with that in mind, I decided I'd rather hold the Spell Pierce in defense, especially because he's got 2 land here, and he kept the draw with the Burgeoning in hand, which really makes me feel like he's got some kind of mana acceleration at 3, either one of the pair of Kodama's Reach or Cultivate, or maybe a 3-mana artifact like Coalition Relic or Lantern or something else like that. So with that in mind, I decided to just play Prairie Stream and keep the Spell Pierce available. Since I'll be able to play Dimir Signet next turn if I draw an untapped land, and we'll be able to Mana Leak at that point. So it goes back to his turn. Sure enough, and when it comes to play untapped, I know I made the right call. He's got definitely the weakest of the 3-mana artifact selection. He's got Darksteel Ingot, which I think I'm playing in my deck too. And a Spell Pierce for sure. Keep that out of play. All right, awesome. So I draw Plains, which is really handy because that's going to allow me to deploy the Signet without worrying. Notice I've had no opportunity to play the Pyramid of the Pantheon, so this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. It's like a 1-drop artifact you can't really play a lot of the time until turn 5 or 6, and certainly can't activate for a while. So he's still done on his turn. And I top deck Future Sight, phenomenal card to get right now. I'm going to play this Smoldering Marsh, which comes into play tap, just like just about every land in my deck. So I've got the Pyramid in play, and I have the ability to Mana Leak as well now and start getting counters on it, which is kind of handy. So I kind of want him to play something right now. But worst case scenario, I can always just add a counter to this thing and not use the mana for anything. All right, he's got 4. He says done again, but now he's got counterspell mana. It's going to change things a little bit. So I'm going to pump that up. Awesome. Well, drawing a land here is really, really nice because that means I'm going to be able to cast Painful Truths for 3 while running the mana through the Pyramid and still have the ability to Mana Leak. So I'm certainly going to do that. And he lets it go. No fight over that. I get Boilerworks Island and Commander's Sphere. Pretty much better version of Darksteel Ingot most of the time. I'd say the ability to sack this thing to draw a card is more likely to matter than the indestructibility, so I'd say this card's a little better. Again, I think I'm playing with both, although I'm not positive about the Ingot. All right, he's up to 5. What's coming down here? And he casts Ikri Shadikwi, the Usurper. Kind of strange, odd card to use. A partnered commander. I'm not sure why he's running this, but regardless, it's not nearly threatening enough for me to care about. Just a 3/7 with Menace, which I'm sure I'll draw a solution to soon enough. And given the fact that he didn't play anything at 4 mana means this Mana Leak is likely going to stop something much more impactful from his hand later on down the road. So I figure he's got a bunch of things in his hands that do cost 5 or 6 or even 7 mana, and obviously the General at 7. So it seems like a perfect opportunity to put down... actually, I guess I'm playing the Commander Sphere first. I'm going to wait one more turn. This is just an attempt to get the Pyramid a little bit larger. Yeah, I decided that the Future Sight will be a lot more powerful when I can cast it off of a Gilded Lotus and then potentially play 2 or 3 extra cards that turn. Looking at my mana base, I don't think I had the ability... Let's see here. If I don't play Commander Sphere, this thing is untapped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. I guess I had the ability to play Future Sight and then an Island and Mana Leak, but I decided it's okay to wait one more turn given that I'm not really under any pressure. And now I'm going to have the ability to power out the Future Sight and cast other things as well in the same turn. A lot of the time, I see people playing Future Sight right away, like playing it on turn 5, and I generally don't feel that that's a particularly good play to do. First of all, it means you're tapped out and your opponent can get rid of it right away. But also it means that if you flip over a land right away, you can't play a land for free off the top. So even if they kill the card, you don't even get a cantrip off of it. It's often better. It's sort of like playing Crucible on turn 3 off of a 3rd land drop when you've got a fetch land in the graveyard. It's usually a better use of your mana and more efficient to actually play it on the following turn so that you immediately get at least one use out of it before they deal with it. He hits me for 3 and gains some life, which doesn't matter. And then he plays Reclamation Sage. And I guess he didn't have a 6th land, so I would have been able to leak that if I had played the thing. But I decide I don't really want him killing my Pyramid of the Pantheon either way. I figure I'm going to draw something good. And that's honestly almost like a way of making him fight over it. If he does have a counterspell in his hand, kind of wanted him to counter there to make him feel like I really care about the Pyramid. And that way it makes the Future Sight come down unfettered. I draw Ponder, which is very handy, especially in conjunction with Future Sight. So I'm going to play the enchantment first, of course. See if there's something I need to ponder past. I'll play the Crumbling Necropolis. There's a Kefnet on top. That's certainly nice. I'm going to play that for free. And the Swords to Plowshares is 3/7. He responds by casting Rapid Hybridization on his own guy. Kind of a baffling and weird play, but I'm not going to complain about him using that card for nothing. I'm going to cast Ponder here. Oops, stop deck. Stop. Okay, there's just some junk off there. So I decided to reshuffle. There was nothing of consequence on top, and now there's Earthquake. All right. So feeling pretty good. Kefnet's not a card I would run in regular Breya, but in this deck, where there's a premium on really high-quality cards, it's good enough to use. I find it's showing up in all of my blue decks these days that are budget-related. He's got a Frog Lizard in play. And then he hits 7 mana right here. Fortunately, I've got an Earthquake on top of my deck, so he can't just slam Damia, because I don't have any answer for it. And he casts Treachery on Kefnet. Oh, that's so brutal. Damn. It's really bad giving your opponent an actual way to get back in a game that's starting to trickle out of his hands. Really, really blows to lose the Kefnet there, because I have no way to interact with it either. And I was 1 mana short of being able to negate. But I wouldn't have expected he can control it. And then he follows it up with something even worse. Almost, he's got a Frost Titan as well to clamp down my Gilded Lotus. Suddenly the situation just looks much worse. A minute ago I was feeling like this game was unlosable, and now suddenly it's really not feeling very good. Gonna have to draw some answers. Is it Charm on top? I love casting this card off the top of my deck for free, because it's like drawing 4 cards. That thing plus the 2. Alright. So I draw 2, throw away 2 useless lands. Can play a Talisman and see what else comes. There's a Battlefield Forge for free. God, Future Sight's so disgusting. I just down to 1 card in hand. And I decide it is time to quake away this stuff. This saves me 9 damage a turn, of course. And it kills off his Frost Titan, preventing it from tapping my Lotus next turn. So this does let my guard down, but I don't really have anything besides a negate anyway. And I do understand that this gives him an opportunity to play his Damia, which could be potentially deadly. But between Electrolyze, Preordain, and Future Sight, I feel that I have a reasonably good chance of dealing with a Damia right away. Plus, of course, I've got my Commander, which hasn't come into to factor in yet, and Damia only has 4 toughness. So even if you were to play Damia, I would just cast Breya and blow it up. And Damia is a very, very poor matchup against Breya for that reason. Alright, tapping a bunch of mana. And he riffs me with Overload just right now, which, when we have this many lands in play, isn't that big of a deal. But again, it bounces this stupid Pyramid. Arg. It's so hard to get the Pyramid to actually work. Annoying. That's okay, though. He's completely tapped out for the turn. I'm going to be able to redeploy most of this, though I do lose the mana off the Pyramid. So, first things first, play the Commander Sphere. I'm going to play that dumb thing, filter some mana through it, cast Dimmer Signet, and play the Talisman, and sit back. And again, I'm just waiting on Breya. I'm actually thinking that if I have enough of these junky artifacts in play, at least if I play Pyramid of Pantheon, I can play Breya and double shrink the Kefnet if it starts to get out of control. Right now, he's shown no desire to actually start drawing cards with it, so I haven't really had to worry about it much. He casts Sky Shroud Claim. And in retrospect, with him having so few cards in hand, I might have actually wanted to counter that with a negate, given that it's unlikely that any other spells are going to be played in the short term that the negate's going to need to deal with. Plus, it gives him extra mana to start drawing extra cards with Kefnet. And I could have probably done that. So yeah, he just draws a card for free there. So the negate would have stopped mana generation as well as 2 lands coming into play and a card off Kefnet. And I think that's probably worth 2 mana. So I probably should have stopped that. And he plays Mana Vault. Lots and lots of land. I'm surprised he didn't draw off Kefnet right there. He had 1 mana floating, and I think he probably should have done it, given he only had 1 more card in his hand. Mana Vault's not doing anything, and he needs to draw something here. So in step, I'm just going to electrolyze his face to draw Obnilixis. I believe that this guy is the only Planeswalker who is currently under the $2 threshold. If anybody is aware of another Planeswalker that is legal, I think maybe the other Chandra is the really crappy one that deals 1 damage to players, and you can pay 0, I think, to exile the top card. I mean, I guess it's not that bad. I think that guy might be legal as well, but I don't have a ton of red mana sources in the deck, at least not reliable red mana, so I don't expect to play with the thing that costs RR outside of the Inferno Titan. But Obnilixis, absolute powerhouse, really, really nice, but I'm going to play Future Sight first because that's guaranteed card draw, and there's Forbid on top. That is delicious. All right, I'm going to Scry just to draw it. There's an Impulse. I can play that. Some Merchant Scroll there. Whisper, Chalice, Signet, and a Night's Whisper. I'll definitely take the scroll. And then I reveal Control Magic, which is really nice. It's a way to get my Kefnet back, or steal Damia if he tries to play it. And I've got multiple redundant ways of dealing with that here. And the Forbid is super nice. Back to his turn. Tapping the Mana Vault. That's interesting. He casts Bribery on me. In retrospect, I should have countered this, for sure. And I should have countered it with Buyback. I pretty much don't read him for having a counterspell. And Bauble's not doing anything, and I could probably throw away the Negate or the Nin at this point. Nin is powerful, but with Future Sight in play and Obnilixis, I don't really need the ability. Having the Control Magic on top is really nice because I can steal my Kefnet back. And, of course, if I don't throw away the Nin, the Kefnet plus the Control Magic is pretty much game over. I mean, Kefnet plus Nin is pretty much game over. But I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, I don't really have that much he can get that I can't just kill with Obnilixis. And with that in mind, sure, knock yourself out, man. Go ahead and get one of my creatures. And then he picks Disciple of the Ring, of course, this insane thing that has all these built-in counterspells. And he currently has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he has the ability to make me pay 6 extra mana, which I can do, but not when... Well, he clones it here. I'm going to try to counterspell the other one. And, of course, now it's too late. I'm not going to obviously buy this back. He just makes me pay 2. I'm just doing that, honestly. I know that it's going to come into play, and I'm doing that simply to get him to spend one of the cards from the graveyard. Pretty annoying. At least Breya is an answer to Disciple, although because of cards in the graveyard, he can actually make the Disciples grow beyond the -4. -4. Draw Swamp. I'm going to play Breya here. And a Merchant Scroll. He doesn't counter it. That means that I go get Mystical Teachings, since it gets 2 of my instants. And then a Steel Hellkite comes down on top of my deck. That's pretty damn nice. And he has 0 cards in hand, and I've got 2 mana available still to sacrifice artifacts to Breya. So I'm not really too concerned about what he could do here. Oh yeah, there's Darksteel Ingot, so I am using it. Goes back to his turn, takes 1. He top decks Gilded Drake and aims it at Breya. So even though this means that he's going to have to sacrifice the Drake, I don't get it. It's certainly worthwhile to just sack Breya plus one of these Thopters to kill one of the guys. And of course, he recognizes what the Disciple does, and he pays another instant out of the graveyard to keep it around for at least 1 more turn. Oh, god damn it! Stop, deck. Stop, UI. Oh, God, I hate this UI so much. Okay, well, what happened in the last sequence of turns was what the hell did I do? I don't remember how I killed off one of the... oh, that's right. I just attacked him with Steel Hellkite. And, yeah, I saw Palace Jailer on top of my deck and cast it to remove the Kefnet. And then I attacked with Steel Hellkite, and he did not tap one of the... He didn't tap it with one of the Disciples of the Ring, which meant that I got to spend 5 mana and kill off both of his Disciples, which leaves him with practically nothing. And here I've got Mystical Teachings and Stoker Battle and Negate in hand, and very aggressive, practically lethal damage too. So this writing is very much on the wall here. And I've got the Monarch. Completely free reign to do as I will with the board. Breya. Oh, I guess I'm just punching him in the face here for lethal. Yeah, I've got enough damage to kill him. Well, I'm sorry that game got a little bit truncated at the end due to the UI screwing around. But at that point, it was sort of academic anyway. And I honestly included this game not so much because it was a super pitch battle, but because it was a fairly long game with this brand new deck. And I thought you guys would enjoy just sort of seeing my thought process and card inclusion for a 4-color budget deck based around Breya, which you may be interested in giving a try yourself. So I've got a bunch of other games here. I think I do have some other really excellent games with this deck to showcase down the road, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry, it's a 20-minute video for a relatively anticlimactic game, but there you have it. I've got more stuff coming. See you soon.